Tor, the very best in science fiction and fantasy.
Hello, this is Tor Publicity, here with award-winning author John Scalzi, author of Old Man's War and The Last Colony. John, how are you?
I'm fabulous, thank you. How are you?
I'm fabulous, too, because I get to spend time with John, whom I never see because he's from Ohio.
Right, exactly. And here we are actually in Chicago. So we're both from two different places, and we've come to Chicago. It's just so wonderful.
In the lovely Schaumburg Renaissance Hotel.
It is nice. It is. It's like the hotel of the future. It looks like it was brought in from like 2100 or something like that. It's actually very nice.
Almost like out of one of your novels.
Yes, exactly. Well, if it was one of my novels, then it would be attacked by aliens and everybody would be eaten. But theoretically, yes.
But thank goodness we haven't gotten quite that far yet.
Not that far in the future.
So, John, I always love hearing about the story of how you're discovered, and I can never hear it enough, so please, tell it once again.
Back in the old days, well, what happened was I wrote Old Man's War, and it was intentionally written. I wanted to sell it. I wanted to, get it out there. But then I finished it, and then I remembered that one of the things that I love about books is, that have the books on the shelves and so on and so forth, but one of the things that I absolutely hate about the book business is trying to sell the book. And by the time that I'd written Old Man's War, I had already had nonfiction books out. So I figured, I'm okay with, I have these books out, it's fine. I'll just put this one up on my website and I won't even worry about trying to sell it. So that's what I did. In December of 2002, I put the book up a chapter at a time and serialized it through the month of December. And at the end of it, right after Christmas, I got this email from Patrick Nielsen Hayden, who, of course, is senior editor at Tor.
Your venerable editor.
My venerable editor just won a Hugo for being best long-form editor. We're very excited about that. And he said, in the email was, well, I know you're interested in doing this as an electronic thing, but it's a pretty good book, and I'd kind of like to buy it. And my response to him email was like, yeah, okay. And then immediately I had to go on my website because I promised people that I would keep the Old Man's War on my website. And then I said, I kind of have to take it down. I sort of sold it. To which all my friends who are authors wrote me emails that went more or less, die, you blankety blank, because you're not supposed to do it that way. And one of the things that I want to make sure that I always tell people is, yes, I did it this way, and it was completely, but it was fairly completely random. And since that time, since 2002, December 2002, and now, there have been maybe 5 or 6 other books in science fiction that have been sold off of somebody's website. Meanwhile, there have been like 1,000 books that have been sold the old-fashioned way. So statistically speaking, you're still much better off doing it the old-fashioned way.
But you were one of the pioneers.
I was one of the pioneers. Back in the old days. Yes. Yes.
So tell us how Old Man's War took off, because, I think,
Well, again, it was a tale of the internet. We had been very fortunate that it generated a lot of attention by some bloggers, primarily Instapundit, which was Glenn Reynolds, and Boing Boing, which of course Cory Doctorow. Cory was kind enough to give the book a blurb anyway. But what happened was when I first met with Patrick after we'd sold the book, because then I flew out to New York so he could see that I was a real live person, not just a bunch of pixels. He said, well, we'll do this. We'll send out ARCs, which are advanced reader copies. And do you have anyone that you would want to send it to? And I said, yes, I want you to make sure that you send it to Glenn Reynolds of Instapundit. And at the time, he knew who Glenn Reynolds was because, of course, he has his own blog. But it was still fairly a new idea of doing that. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, absolutely, let's make sure we do this. And so he did. And Glenn Reynolds just mentioned the book, at one point. It's like, I got the ARC of Old Man's War, and I'm enjoying it. And at the time, the Amazon pre-order page was up, and the Amazon ranking went from about 150,000 or something like that to 900 in the space of 4 hours, because there was just so many people like, well, if Glenn likes it, and they hit it. Because what happens is, and this is a dynamic that we see in blogs quite a lot, is the people who read blogs feel like they have a personal connection to the blogger. That it's not just like a newspaper columnist or book reviewer, just talking in general. It's me talking to you. So it's the equivalent of somebody, standing in the bookstore going, I really like this book, and I'm your friend. Check this out. And it really made a difference. So when the book came out, we went through the first printing like gangbusters, and we sold a lot through Amazon and other online sites, and it just took off from there. Once we cleared through the first printing of it, people were like, wow, this is something we need to know about. So we were very fortunate. I was very fortunate that I live in a world that had the internet, because it's been very good to me and very, very good to this book series.
It's been exciting to hear the buzz. You hear from people, Old Man's War. You've got to read Old Man's War.
Yeah, well, it's nice. So, I mean, quite clearly, you don't want people to say Old Man's War. That stinks, or I don't want to read the next book in the series because the first one was so awful. But yeah, it is one of those things where we've also been happy to see that people do tell their friends about it. It is one that the dynamic of books has always been people saying, let me show you what I have. It's what happens.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth. And it's what happens with music, and it's what happens with so many things. And it's still critical. It's still critical for books. And it's particularly critical for science fiction, because everybody knows everybody in the science fiction world.
Right.
Read this!
And your readership has only grown with the Ghost Brigades and the Last Colony.
Yes, and that's something we're both happy about.
Yes.
I would say. One would hate to have the first book sell well and then the second book sell half. And it is a challenge with the series to keep it going so that people are enjoying the series, but at the same time also make it new enough so that you can bring new people in as well.
Right. And you survived a tour for the Last Colony, which went very well.
Yes. Some heartless publicist named Dot put me on a tour for 3 weeks away from my family.
And everyone loved it. Your readers.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Although the one thing I came away from this, for future reference for people, it's a lot of fun. Bring hand sanitizer, because in San Diego, I don't know whether I told you this at the time, because I didn't want to concern you. But
I am a little concerned now.
No, I'm fine now. It's been months. But stomach flu. I got a really bad case of stomach flu, and I think it was just because, I don't know, maybe somebody would lick their palms before they shook my hand or something like that. But it was just all that hand-in-hand contact, because you say hello to people, you talk to them, you shake their hand and all that sort of stuff. And you want to do that, but like I said, next time, bring hand sanitizer, so when I'm done, just, do that.
Got it. Notes for the next tour.
Notes for the next tour. Hand sanitizer, people. I'm not kidding.
Take note. So now that you survived the tour and have seen your readership grow so much, rumor has it that there is another book.
Rumors, lies, rumors.
In the Old Man's War universe?
It is true. We actually kept it quiet for a very long time, partly because I was still busy writing it. We were still busy shaping it and discussing what we wanted to do with it. But yes, there will be a new book in the series. It's called Zoe's Tale. Readers of the series will know that there's a character named Zoe who is the daughter of Jane Sagan and John Perry. And what we want, it follows her and tells a little bit of her story. Now, one of the things that people are asking is is this a continuation of the series? This was book 4 in the Old Man's War trilogy, which of course would be ridiculous because then it would no longer be a trilogy. And the way that I've been explaining to people is the trilogy, the first 3 books, Old Man's War, Ghost Brigades, Last Colony, represent a complete story arc in themselves. They are a trilogy. This new book is its own standalone book. If it does well and we decide we want to move forward from that, then it would be the start of its own series in that particular universe. But one of the things that I want to be clear about is one of the philosophies I have is that all the books, you should be able to read them even if you haven't read the other books, that you want to just be able to pick them up. And what I want people to be able to do with this particular book is say, even the people who have never read Old Man's War or Last Colony or Ghost Brigades, still be able to pick it up, get a complete story, get totally immersed in Zoe's tale, Zoe's own story, and then find out, so there are actually other books in this series? That's great. So I hope that's the idea. We'll see if it actually pans out that way.
Zoe finally gets her story.
Zoe finally gets her. As soon as Last Colony was done, people were like, that was great. When's the next one? I think you should do it with Zoe.
Write faster.
Write faster. And so we took that to heart. And you have to be careful. You don't want to be, You don't want to just hack them out. You don't want to just grind out, book 17 in this series. If you want to make sure that if you actually do continue this series, that you make it worth their while to read it and also worth my while to write it. And hopefully we're going to be doing that.
Well, I can't wait. Do you think I'll get a sneak peek at it?
No, not you. Oh, Dot.
This interview is over.
Oh, Dot.
I'm just kidding. Well, no, honestly, we can't wait for Zoe's Tale. And so thank you very much, John, for having this conversation.
Thank you, Dot.